Me be here and spend some time with you guys. I really appreciate some of the lessons from Box. And one of the things that he said was, what you go after, which is a hair on fire problem. So I describe it a different way. We are a young company that's going after what I call a bleeding from the neck problem. I look for three things. One, and I'm not new to this whole do a startup game. I've sold a number of companies. I've taken one public. I've shut companies down. I run one company now. I sit on 3 other boards and 3 advisory boards on top of it. So I kind of have my fingers in a lot of stuff. I always tell young entrepreneurs, look for 3 things, and they're the things I look for, which is number 1, a really big market. Take a big target to shoot at, because if you're shooting at a little tiny target, you got a really good chance of missing. So I like a $1 billion plus market, and what we do at Watchful is we're shooting at a really big market of information security. You guys probably might know that. I won't give away a gift if somebody knows the name Edward Snowden, because I'm kind of guessing I'd have to bring more gloves than Box brought, and I'm smaller than them. Or if anybody shops at Target, maybe had a little problem in the last few months. So information security and all the problems and holes around that, really it's a bleeding from the neck problem. It's the first thing I look for. The second thing is, as I get older, I realize I don't want to work so hard, so I want an unfair advantage. I want to cheat. I want to have the best product. I want to bring a gun to a knife fight. And that's what we have in our technology, and you'll get to see a little bit about it. And the other thing is, not only do I want to not work hard, I want a bunch of people around me that do. So I want a killer team that's really motivated, that's really smart, that might not know how smart they are, so they'll constantly try and prove it. And that's really what we have. So you've got the obligatory slide of what kind of company we are. So let me talk about the market we're going after. Like I said, everybody knows who Edward Snowden is. Do you know who really knows that name now? Is every CSO and CISO on the face of the freaking planet. You know who else knows it? Every board member of every publicly traded company or every private company with more than $5 million of revenue. This has become a board level discussion. And the neat thing about it is, what I'll call him Professor Snowden taught a few lessons to guys that have been in the business 20 and 30 years. The first lesson is, it's not a matter, don't think you're secure. It's not a matter of if you're going to have a data breach, it's just when. Look, the NSA is arguably the most secure organization on the planet, and they got busted. Number 2, it's not going to come because some massive amount of hackers teamed together in Russia to penetrate your firewall. That ain't what happened here. This guy's not a hacker. The information he got was not some super secret database behind 5 firewalls and 3 levels of encryption. You know what he gave to the Guardian that started this whole firestorm? It was a PowerPoint presentation. Much like the one that I'm going to do today, but the graphics weren't nearly as good. But if you think about it, where does the most incredibly valuable information in any organization live? It lives in your emails. It lives in your presentations, your reports. If you could crack a database that has lines and lines and lines, kind of like the Box team showed, of just a bunch of data, you want that, or do you want the distilled forecast that goes to the executive VP? Do you want the board package that gets presented to the board? Do you want the finalized product plans? That's the really valuable stuff. That's what's called unstructured data. Things like emails, documents, reports, spreadsheets, etc. And that's what he took. So how do we stop that? That's what we are calling the insider threat. That's what everybody in our industry is calling the insider threat. It's not the people trying to bang their way in. It's the people that are already inside that do either malicious or stupid things. Case in point, about 8-9 weeks ago, I got an email from an investment banker who shall remain nameless, and you'll see why. That email was, it's a guy I've known for 10 years. It said Charles, first flag, because I go by Chuck, unless you're a salesman, in which case, yeah, my name's Charles, that way I know it's you when you call. It said, Charles, here's the pipeline we talked about. We'll review it in our Thursday call. Now, I've known this guy for 10 years. I haven't talked to him for 2 years. So I don't know anything about a Thursday call. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I behind? I better check this and see what it is. It was a list of 462 pending M&A and IPO transactions and funding transactions that this investment banking firm was working on. It was their internal pipeline. Now, forget what that means to them. Forget what happens if another investment banking firm got that. How about if, I don't know, maybe somebody like the SEC realized they sent that to a third-party person sitting in the world, in the clear? That was a mistake. This is a good guy. He's not an idiot. He's not a third-grade reading level fellow. He's really good. But good people make mistakes. Don't tell me you haven't heard of the case of a CEO who is typing a very sensitive email about a possible headcount reduction and restructure, and he thinks he's sending it to the 15 members of the management team and the board, and he realizes 1 second after he hits the enter key, ooh, that last name is a journalist. That's not my executive VP. We see that stuff happen all the time. And then, of course, we have the malicious insiders, the Edward Snowdens. But Do we all have an Edward Snowden organization? Sure. But you know what you have? Anybody ever left the company to go to a competitor? What did you do for 3 weeks before you left? And don't tell me you didn't. You filled up every USB key you can get your hands on. Customer list, pricing, proposal, HR data, market data. I know, I've been there, I've done it. Yes. That hurts companies. Yesterday, my son-in-law called me, and he said, should I be scared? He's got a 60-person company that he works for. He says, 7 people quit today to go to a competitor. Should I be scared? And so my answer to him was no, that happens all the time. I mean, 7 people is not going to kill your company. That was really his fear, is my company going to quit? But what I told him is, but you know, you ought to think about what those people did, make yourself a star, go to your VP and say, what are we doing about the information that they probably took with them? Because that's what really kills you when those people start calling your company. I was on the board of a company that owned trade show and magazine publication properties. You don't know about this? So they have a publication, they have a trade show. Their lifeblood is their subscriber list. Their lifeblood is their communications. Their lifeblood is their planning for their next year event to bring in a few $1 million. Guess what? The publisher and assistant publisher and the event coordinator quit and went and started a competitor. Guess what they did? They announced a competing magazine and a competing show to happen the same weekend as this person's trade show. And that can crush them. So how do you get a handle on that stuff? Because it is a bleeding from the neck problem. It's everywhere. 90% of CIOs surveyed and CSOs surveyed said, yeah, I admit, we had a breach in the last 12 months. 90%. That means the other 10% are either dumb or in a coma or on vacation. And why is this happening? We've spent billions in the last 10 years to secure the perimeter, harden the network. You've seen it. Firewall after anti-spam, antivirus. I can't get out to my data. I can't do this. That port needs to be open, et cetera, et cetera. We create this enforced boundary around our enterprise data. But that's not the problem, because like we talked about, the problem is those people that are already inside. It's not the hard shell that might get cracked at the soft and gooey center. It's the people that you give permission to walk out and take data with them. So instead of locking the perimeter, what the best minds in security today are saying, how do we lock the data? Because there is no perimeter anymore. You've heard cloud, you've heard BYOD, right? Those two things, this little guy right here destroys the illusion of any network perimeter. I have business plans on here. I have HR evaluations on here. I have emails on here about really sensitive customer negotiations. If I lose this, if that data is not protected and it falls in the wrong hands, my company could suffer greatly. There is no network perimeter anymore. That means that what we're doing is we're investing in how do you forget about securing the perimeter? How do you lock the data itself? How do you lock every email, every report, every spreadsheet, so that the only people that can use it are the people that you have given the express right and authority to do so? Most companies, even small companies, have some type of information control policy. They say, look, we have some information that is public. That's okay to send out to everybody. Data sheets, brochures, regular emails about let's go to lunch. But we have some stuff that's our business. It's stuff that we would consider internal use only. You've heard that term? It's business plans, policies, procedures. Stuff that got out probably wouldn't kill you, but it's your business, nobody else's. You might have a higher level of stuff that you might say, no, this is really important. This is HR data, finance data. This is confidential. And if I have 10,000 employees, all 10,000 can read internal use stuff, but only 1,000 can read confidential. And maybe only 500 can read top secret stuff, board reports, undisclosed financials, merger and acquisitions, et cetera. So what we do is we have a product called RightsWATCH that lets a company take that strategy and that philosophy and apply that to every piece of electronic data that's created. Every email, every report, every document, every spreadsheet. Okay? And so what we do, I'm actually just going to cut here and show you how it works. Let me give you a quick example. I'm going to go to Outlook. Probably we all use Outlook, right? So I'm going to do an email. Notice that when I do an email and call up my Outlook, you see something on mine that may not be on yours, because my company has a good thought process of some stuff is public, internal, confidential, and secret, etc. Now, if I stopped there, our company would fail, because that means I would trust the user to classify the information appropriately, right? User security is like, it's an oxymoron. It's like airline food, military intelligence, government budgets. It doesn't make sense together. They don't fit. So you can't have user-driven security. You have to have your policy technology automatically implemented. Let me give you an example. If I'm going to send something to a couple of people in my company, Justine and Thomas, notice that this email has automatically classified itself as internal use only. That's because we have a rule in my company. If information is being discussed only in the company, mark it confidential and encrypt it. The only people that can open this are people that are in my company, in what's called the Active Directory, the list of user IDs and passwords that we approve. Right now, if this gets forwarded to the wrong person, if that's what you sent it, they can't open it up and read it. But sometimes you got people in your own company, I'm going to tell them it's a demo so they don't get all excited, that might try and send stuff that they shouldn't. So what if I said this is Watchful secret and should not be disclosed outside? Notice that it reclassified itself because there's a phrase in there that is important to us. Watchful secret. Could be pending merger, could be headcount reduction, etc., etc. It triggered a rule. This could be in the subject, the body, the header, or the footer of a Word document, in a cell in a spreadsheet. If that's in there, that gets classified. You know what happens now? This is an encrypted email with the keys are AES 2048-bit encryption. In case you don't know, that means it takes a lot of guys, a lot of computers to try and get into this. And it's now even, by the way, those people that are on the list there, they can't open that. They're sales directors with my company. And if I tried to breach it and said, I'm gonna downgrade it to internal use, notice how the send button is grayed out? I can't send it. My company won't let me. Unless I hit this and says, you're trying to override a company applied policy. Do you agree? Do you want to digitally sign and put your name on the line that you're overriding that corporate policy? I'm going to say yes because I'm the CEO, so it's me that fires me. But literally, I could have that. By the way, lower level people in my company cannot override the policy. What you notice about everything I just did there is what I call, it's all at 4th grade reading level. I didn't do anything. I don't have to know my company's security policy. I don't have to know the keywords or phrases. It doesn't have to be keywords. It could be a data format. For example, if I close this, no, I don't want to save that, and I want to do another one, and I'm going to trick the system. I'm going to send this to my Yahoo address. I'm going to call it number. I'm going to say, here is the number for Jonathan that you requested, because his ex-girlfriend has paid me a lot of money to give his social security number. Don't ask me how I know his number, okay? So I'm gonna, it says, wait a minute, I detected a social security number in there. I promise we don't have every possible social security number programmed into my laptop. Because all this, by the way, is taking place here on my client. But it knows the data format to look for. Patient ID number, account number, you name it. If this was a document, it would be automatically watermarked. It's tagged with an electronic fingerprint. When I send that email, I know where it goes. I know what they do with it. I know if they opened it, printed it, edited it, forwarded it to somebody else printed it, and sent it to somebody else. I know every step of the way, all the way back for the lifetime of that document. That is what we call data-centric security. It's not network-centric security. We're really not worried about firewalls and things of that nature because we don't think they work. We've proven. The NSA proved it doesn't work. You got to start locking down the data itself. That's what we do. That's Watchful Software and our product called RightsWATCH. I will tell you, we're a fairly young company, about 1.5 years old. We've, in the last 1.5 years, done some pretty great things. In 1.5 years, we brought a product to market, which went GA in March. So I got less than a year in GA. We've already got a global distribution channel, which speaks not to our company, but to how great this problem and the answer to the problem is. We got a global distribution network now with distributors in 10 countries and 80 signed, trained resellers that have devoted at least 3 days of paid training. If you've built companies before, you know that's usually a 4 or 5 year kind of milestone. We're there in about 1. We've been called out by the industry as a really cool company. We, in the last few months, been named to the Red Herring Top 100, Network World's Top 10 Startups to Watch, Computer Reseller News Top Emerging Companies of 2013. We got a rocket tied to us, and I think we can do great things. I just brought the product to market. I hired a sales guy in March. I hired a second sales guy. We've already got a pipeline that's around 11 million US. I don't think we'll close that all this year. But we got some pretty good growth and traction. So what am I doing? I'm making sure people understand who we are. I'm making sure people understand what we do. I'm making sure that people understand what data-centric security is. I think you guys can all understand that now. And by the way, I think that in 3 to 5 years, this will apply to people in their homes. I think when you type Gmails, you're going to have certain things that you've been able to program in so that if it gets the wrong place, I hate to say it, I've been through ugly things in my life, like custody battles and relatives die and dissolution of assets. You know what? People write things in email they probably shouldn't, and they don't want them to go to the wrong place. I don't want people that if one of my kids has their friends at my house and my computer is left unlocked, that they can get in and copy stuff onto a USB key that they might be able to use later. I want that stuff is locked so that only me or people that I've said can use it, no matter where it is, on my PC, off my PC, in a Dropbox, on a USB key, etc. That's what we do. I'm really excited about it in case you can't tell. So I'll open it up now. Time to open it up for questions, right? Because Jonathan's giving me the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Any questions? In the back.
So how does this affect data indexing or searching across all your company's assets or information?
So in most cases, it's orthogonal to it, because what we do, it depends on how you're setting up your indexes, but what we do is we tag metadata based upon the rules that you set. So if you want to index and find everything that has a social security number or that's on this project or that's associated with XYD, that's what will be tagged in the metadata. So even if the data is encrypted, the metadata allows you to do your indexing and searching. We also are integrated with enterprise solutions like Microsoft SharePoint, so that you might want to use a big data repository like SharePoint. You put all your stuff in SharePoint unencrypted, like a law firm, so they can scan every word. But what we have is that you can say in that SharePoint directory, anytime it's checked out, it will get automatically classified at a minimum of this level, and only certain people can use it, or to this project, and only people associated with that project can use it. So you can work with your however your company does its indexing a number of different ways. Yes.
Does this software work with instant messaging? Email.
No, not yet with instant messaging. Right now we're attacking, I believe that you go for the big target, you go for not only the bleeding from the neck problem, but go after the 80% problem. It's what I tell my kids all the time in life, is you drive down the road of life, don't worry about the little pebbles and the rocks, move the big rocks out of the way, and then you can drive down the road. And by the time you're really, really successful and you have a Ferrari that looks really good but breaks down on a pebble, then you start moving the pebbles. Right now we're moving the big rocks. So it's emails, it's documents, spreadsheets, presentations, PDFs. It's not SMS and IM, but there's no reason we can't go there.
Does it cover paper as well? What if people take printouts and walk out?
I'm sorry?
Does it cover paper as well? Do you keep a track of people?
Oh, does it cover paper as well? Once it's printed, okay, I kind of lose control about that. I've tried to kind of blend this DNA into trees. If we could grow trees that created paper that we could track, I could make even more money. I'm not there yet. But what we do is, depending on the level, you can determine what can be done either by level or by person within a level. So as an example, in my company, an internal use document can only be opened, read, and used by people in my company. But we do allow them to print it. In my company, a top secret document is only allowed to be printed by me and the security director. That's it. If it's printed, we know that it is printed. Number one, it's printed and it's watermarked. Number two, I know that it was printed. So if I have a board package that I print, a copy to go over, or maybe I don't print it, but I find a copy of the board package and there's only 2 of us that can print it, I know who did it. No matter, even if I sent it to the board members and the management team, only one other guy could print it. But I can go back and see who did print it, and when did they print it, and did they forward it, and did they change it. All that is in an instant query database. I had one up here first.
Yeah, so it also works on attachments.
Also works on attachments, yeah. It's not, I showed you email. I could have gone and done a spreadsheet that had social security numbers and it would have been watermarked and protected and classified the same way. And just like with the email, it's in the user workflow. If I would have shown you a Word document, as I type that Word document and hit File Save, you'll notice it has a classification bar that looked like the one in email, and it's already done. So you don't have to go somewhere else. You don't have to go to a third-party tool. You don't have to go to a menu drop-down, because users don't do that. Yes?
How about the scanning email using copiers?
How about scanning an email using copiers?
Right.
So if the email is printed, you mean?
No, from the copier.
Oh, so you can disable what can be done with that. So you can disable cut and paste, screen print, export. You get to decide what can be done with different levels of information. So if you're sending it to a copier to be printed and then have it scanned?
No, the scanner. The copier has the function like a scan to email.
Yes. So if it's scanned in, you mean? If it's scanned in and it contains those parameters, which could be content, but it could be context. It could be from somewhere or to somewhere or stored on a web drive. For example, in my company, anything on a web drive, Google Docs, Dropbox, Box, those all have a minimum. If you're going to put something up there, it has a minimum of internal use only. So it can be traced